Hey everybody. Welcome to Game Audio Hour number 118. It's our weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas, the latest techniques, project experiences to audio secrets. Here's where you'll find in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. I had to do three things at the same time if I would just memorize that. So I had to hit the broadcast button, I had to say the spiel, and I had to watch the YouTube page where our chat is so that when on the delay the video starts playing on the YouTube page, it doesn't come back through the microphone. I barely made it. I'll perfect
that. Sounds a lot like game development. Just juggling all those tasks.
Yeah, and messing up. Well, only one, I guess, just the spiel. But that's my spiel, I think, is to mess up the spiel.
It's all good.
Hey, man, we got the band back together. Look at us. Mike on bass.
Grand reunion.
Vince on drums. Vince, do you play drums?
Not very well, honestly. It's one of those things. I hear a lot of other musicians say, "Hey, if you can play an instrument, if you've got decent rhythm, you can play drums at least a little bit." No, I cannot play drums. I've tried. I'm just not good. I can't do it.
Do you play the steering wheel?
I can do that pretty well, sort of. And then
That's the beginning steps of drum.
Oh, man. Oh, I do a lot of that during LA traffic.
Yeah. Little known fact, Mike is the Neil Peart of Long Island.
Is that how you pronounce his name? Neil Peart?
That's how I pronounce it anyway.
I always thought it was Neil Peart.
Yeah, I don't know.
And your statement couldn't be further from the truth, except that I am actually from Long Island. But the rest is not accurate.
Well, that's how you do a lie, is you sprinkle in some truth.
A little bit of truth. Yeah, that's true. And
that
Kyle is an astrophysicist who lives in Ventura. I see how it works.
You're an astrologist. But Mike, you just got back from some serious gallivanting.
I did. I gallivanted with Eleanor to Kona, Hawaii, on the Big Island, where we discovered the joys of snorkeling.
Oh, wow. What'd you see?
We saw a lot of exotic-looking fish. We saw a huge turtle. We saw the word aloha spelled out on the bottom of the ocean with apparently wreckage. Somebody just took cinder blocks and other that looked like pieces of a sunk boat and spelled out the word aloha. It was kind of amazing.
Holy cow.
And somewhat disquietingly, a guy with a harpoon gun. And I just have to assume that was legal, but I gave him wide berth, needless to say. But it was a good time.
Did you study the range of the harpoon gun so you could figure out where to swim, how far away to stay?
I was busily focusing on giving him the aforementioned wide berth rather than engaging him in dialogue, since he was carrying a weapon and clearly on the prowl.
Clearly. The crime under the ocean is just horrific. It's unbelievable what's done. Wallets are getting stolen from bikini briefs all over the place. Okay, that's a funny joke, guys. You're supposed to laugh on those. Yeah, I gotta explain the joke. Okay, so what I mean is, Vince, have you been to Hawaii?
I have, actually. It was kind of cool seeing a few of what Mike was talking about, because he did a few status updates on social media. It was pretty cool. I was actually just in Hawaii about a year ago, and it was really fun. Loved it. It was enjoyable. It was relaxing. It was beautiful. The water is great. If you love swimming, if you love being out in the ocean, man, Hawaii is great.
Oh man, I have never.
You should do it.
No,
you absolutely need to do it. You can go with a plan if you want to, because there are plenty of nice services that you can do. So I did a mix of, I'm going to plan this stuff out, and I'm going to have these days where I'm just going to go around and wander, and who knows what will happen. And on both sides of that vacation itinerary, it was great. So,
oh wow,
yeah, Hawaii, highly recommended.
Got to check it out. Hey guys, I got my awesome beep stuff today, so I thought I'd show it off a little bit.
Oh, great.
So I got a beep. Is that going to be? There we go.
Ooh,
patch. It's going to be super cool.
Okay. Is that an iron-on or is you sew it on? Or
No, it's a sew-on. Well, no, it's a sew-on.
Okay.
There's a slight bit of a waxiness to the back, but I don't think it's enough of it to stick if that's the intent. Postcard with a thank you.
Ooh.
Woohoo.
That looks like a personalized.
Awesome
You're welcome, Karen.
I know, isn't that sweet? Yes. Well, I think we should be thanking her. A cool beep sticker going on my guitar. I bought a new guitar, so it goes on the case.
I think you're bearing the lead here. What kind of guitar did you get?
The Vidya. Oh, I'll go get it. Hold on. The Vidya. There it is. The shirt, which is super cool. And then this thing I'm super excited about. Came in a sleeve. Got a little monkey business.
We still haven't figured out what that is, have we?
I haven't. I think it's the soundtrack. CD comes off.
But why would they call it Video Game Apocalypse 2012? That's a weird name for a soundtrack.
Yeah. Produced by, mixed by, concept by. No? Huh. This must not be the soundtrack. I mean, it's something else. Anyway.
It could be. Maybe it's those extra video footage that didn't make it into the final cut.
Well, I pulled the stuff out of the sleeve and got Red Rum Records. Here's what it is.
Red Rum. Oh.
It's an awesomely cool blue vinyl.
Is that a coaster or a frisbee or something? What is that?
It is a blue vinyl. Can you see it through there? Ooh, babies.
Oh.
So coolness.
It looks nice.
That's a big CD.
So it's from Red Rum Records. You know what happens with Kickstarters, I'm slightly embarrassed to say, is that by the time you get your stuff, it's been so long you can't remember what you bid for. And so it's, obviously part of the whole Kickstarter, but I'd have to read it again to figure out what it was I signed up for. Nonetheless, I'm really stoked to put it on the old turntable, give it a listen.
Have you watched the full documentary already, or have you already seen it with the digital code online, or are you planning on watching it for the first time on DVD?
Well, I think that we should have some sort of watch it party. What do you call that? Viewing party?
Ooh. Yeah. Like an online viewing party?
That would be super cool if we could pull it off.
Oh, okay.
That
sounds fun.
Get all the chatties to get in there and have fun. See if Karen will join us. And or we could do it at my house as just another get together. Maybe we could do another barbecue. Why have one a year?
Yeah.
But I've only seen bits and pieces so far. I haven't watched the whole thing. How about you guys?
I would not mind watching it again. I got the online code a while back, and it's really, really good. I still need to go and revisit, because besides that, there's also almost 2 hours of extra footage that it comes with. So I need to watch that as well. So either way, I am super happy to revisit Beep, whether it be online or at your place. Nice thing about being in SoCal is that every day is barbecue day.
That's true.
That's true. What did we have for barbecue last time? It was just hot dogs and stuff, right?
But there was a lot of stuff.
No. We had some interesting flavors of tri-tip.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we had some great stuff. Yeah.
Oh, was it chicken and tri-tip and everything?
Yep.
That sounds good.
It wasn't just tri-tip. It was succeed tip. That was good stuff.
Try. Christ.
All right, we've got 10 minutes down, 50 to go.
Oh my God.
I think we've officially been banned. That was
no.
bad. I think YouTube's going to write me and say we cannot broadcast this show. Wow. Try to
guys in the chat room talking about it. Yeah, some people have seen. Dan Reynolds says he's seen beeps and pieces of the film.
Gosh, what is going on in this place? You guys all magically have kids, and these are all the dad jokes pulling out?
The guys at Westwood Game Audio are saying they have watched. Wait a minute, we have watched beeps and pieces at university. Okay, you're just keeping on going with that. I gotcha.
Who did that? That's a great start.
Westwood Game Audio. I haven't seen you guys. Thanks for watching.
Yes, thank you very much.
Maybe we should actually give these guys what they came here for and actually talk a little bit about what's going on in the game industry and game audio?
Yes, but I have to add one more before we start. Dan Reynolds, do or do not tip is instead of try, tip. Mike, you and Dan, you guys like have a side chat going on with who can come up with the worst try tip joke?
No, I think it's just a psychic bond of some kind.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
All right, let's dig in. What's the first topic?
First topic. Well, we weren't around last week. And a whole lot of stuff has happened in the last 2 weeks. One of the big things was Apple showed off their latest version of the MacBook Pro. And that's getting a lot of people interested and excited. Some people are a little bit frustrated because it's been a while since Apple has shown some really high-powered hardware. You know, things like the Mac Pro, the trash can that a lot of people love. That's, wow, almost 3 years old now.
Oh,
So it's been a while since we've had really top-of-the-line, high-end hardware, but they did show us the new MacBook Pro, and besides refreshing that laptop line, they showed off their new interface, the Touch Bar.
yeah.
How do you feel about the Touch Bar? That this Retina screen, touch-sensitive strip that's going to be on your MacBook Pro keyboard instead of that row of function keys. How do you guys feel about it?
Mike?
I have, I would say, constrained enthusiasm. I think it's an interesting idea, and it remains to be seen whether it will be useful with respect to audio production. I think that the ideal interface for a computer is controlling the UI with your mind. And short of that, the ideal interface is never moving your hands from the keyboard and never moving your eyes from the screen. So to my mind, the Touch Bar will be useful if you don't have to constantly look up and down, and you can memorize the placement of a few virtual buttons that you find handy so that you can kind of feel your way even though you won't have the tactile feedback of function keys. This might be idiosyncratic to how I work, but I have physical function keys on a keyboard on my trash can Mac, and I have them assigned to certain apps via, I think, Quicksilver or one of those other map your function keys to other things programs. And I know intuitively where F4 is, and I can just very efficiently move from software to software, just feeling my way through the function keys. So the question for me is, can you have a similar interaction with the Touch Bar, or are you going to constantly be going up and down and up and down and breaking your eye contact with the screen? If the latter is the case, I might not end up being a fan. But who knows? It may be something we can adapt to just because it offers some new possibilities.
You know, I was wondering about haptics for it. If it had some haptic feedback, that would be kind of cool to, two things I would like to see it have is haptic feedback. And then also be able to put a waveform on there. What would be really cool for me is to scroll through the waveform as I've like zoomed in on it. And every time I hit some sort of transient, it gives me a little bump. That'd be really cool. Because as I'm listening to it, if I'm using it as like a scroll or a jog wheel, I could be going across, feeling the transients, but also hearing the music and going, okay, that's the spot where I want to be. And then you can rock back and forth and really line up on that spot. That would be super cool. And if it had haptic, you would get your feedback, Mike, that you're talking about.
That would be really cool. Unfortunately, no haptic feedback
Oh.
on the Touch Bar. A lot of guys are talking about how that would have been a great thing. And a lot of, there's actually even more talk about it ever since people started digging in more into the technical details of it. And effectively, I actually am not quite savvy enough to go totally into the details, but basically the Touch Bar is itself a lot like an Apple Watch. You know, it actually runs watchOS. It's basically a USB device that has its own processor and its own bit of RAM that it boots from, independent of the MacBook itself. So though, the Apple Watch does have a little bit of haptic feedback. That was one of the things that they were talking about, not just in the latest second generation Apple Watch, but even with the first gen. But yeah, with the Touch Bar, no haptic feedback, unfortunately.
Does it have? Do you think they're going to have a breakout accessory that's just the Touch Bar?
I think some people have been joking about it online, and I'm not sure if they know how serious it could possibly happen. A magic touch bar for people that want to have the touch bar experience on their Mac desktops, perhaps.
I would
Yeah,
not be surprised if there was an external keyboard with touch bar that you could purchase within 6 months. Less likely is having just a little touch bar on its own. That seems a little odd, but I could definitely imagine seeing the keyboard option that you could then plug into your expensive trash can Mac.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about that loss of function keys, though. You gain the touch bar, but you lose the function keys. Over here in a game dev studio, guys are wondering, why don't I have function keys? They use function keys a lot in Visual Studio or Xcode. I know for me, as a PC guy that runs Sonar, I actually use function keys a lot. For me, F5 through F10 in Sonar change a whole lot of what the mouse cursor is doing. So I'm constantly hitting those function keys. Well, actually, Mike, you use Logic, right?
Indeed. As said, I tend to use the function keys for switching between apps that I use frequently. So for me, F4 is Logic, F2 is Sibelius, and I have another one assigned to email.
Oh, okay.
And that's how I mostly use the function keys. Logic is very programmable, so you can really pick any key on the keyboard or combination and assign it to an arbitrary function. So I don't rely on the function keys for Logic per se. An interesting question is, Vince, if you had virtual function keys, perhaps labeled with if you could label them as well with whatever corresponding function you had on your DAW, would you get used to that, or do you need the physical feeling of those keys to guide you so that you can touch them without breaking eye contact with the screen?
Man, I don't know. Actually, with my particular keyboard, I do keep my fingers rested on the grooves between the groups. So F1 through F4 is a group, and F5 through F8 is a group. So I'll often keep my pinky right there between F4 and F5, and that's how I quickly hit keys without actually looking at the keyboard. Yeah, I'm not sure how I would do it without, honestly.
Yeah, that's the same for me. I use F16 through F19 for Pro Tools functions that don't have an equivalent keyboard shortcut already. Like, for instance, if I want to minimize a Pro Tools window, which you can't do in Pro Tools, it doesn't have a function for that.
Huh.
I hit F18, which is something I programmed over in OS X to do it from the OS X window. And so if I don't have if I'm just on a flat surface, I won't know if I'm hitting F18 or something. Or F19 brings up my you know, how the project's hitting the CPU and everything. I can't think of that term right now. So yeah, that's going to be annoying. We need haptic.
Yeah.
On a point that you said, Kyle, is I think one of the most interesting potentials of the touch bar is a waveform display or a timeline display, or some kind of overview of your content that you could then scroll around, perhaps more effectively than if you're using the Magic Trackpad, or instead of the trackpad, you could scroll with your left hand and then do operations with your right. I can imagine that being useful, and since the whole touch bar would presumably be one long strip for navigation, you wouldn't really need to memorize where anything was. So that might end up being a really useful function, but again, we'll have to get our hands on it before we can really call the judgment on that.
And we are a huge show, so Apple, send us free laptops and we will examine this and get back to you.
Absolutely.
I'm sure they're on their way.
So I'm going to move on to another subject. Unless something in the chat room keeps us on this one. Immediate idea would be making an OS.
OSC.
Sean LaVale's got some great ideas in there. But so today I was watching the presentation with, is it Peel from Key and Peele, of the new Adobe VoCo software.
Oh man, Adobe VoCo. That is scary / exciting.
I saw an article that said, "Watch what you don't say" was the title of the article. So for those who don't know, VoCo is this new thing that Adobe's doing. It's Photoshop for VO, and it will you can write in a sentence, and they say in the presentation that if they have 20 minutes of you talking, they'll be able to construct that sentence and use your inflections, and it'll sound like you saying that sentence.
That is crazy.
Right?
That is scary.
Frightening. But also, they do say about that, they say they're going to have watermarking, so you'll be able to tell if this thing that was said was manufactured or if it was actually a quote. Because I was thinking, this is a great way to negotiate with your contract, right? Is just call up a phone and say, hey, you know, I think you should pay me $1 million for this game. When they call back and they say, no, that's ridiculous, I can't believe you said $1 million for this game, you can change it to $1,000 and say, no, I recorded my conversation. I really only said $1,000 for this game.
I wonder if we'll reach a point where audio recordings are no longer admissible evidence in a court of law because maybe they're too easy to feign. I don't think that'll happen year one on the launch of this technology, but it'll be very interesting to see how this impacts our belief in the trustworthiness of audio recordings.
Yeah. So, okay. So you guys have seen some of the stuff. Give me your thoughts on VoCo. Where is it useful? In a VO, I guess for a game, it would be useful, right, to do the lines. But the inflections are so intense in a video game rather than just a conversation. I wonder if it can really capture that kind of excitement.
Let's see. I recently did a job where one of the voice actors was improperly informed about the gender of this alien monster. And so all throughout the dialogue, he keeps on saying him. And then when the game designer says, Vince, please help me, he says him. Is there a way to get it not sounding like him? And I'm like, oh, this might be tough, but what if we just have him say, get him? You know, so just take out that front H there, and it sounds like less definitively that masculine him. Yeah, and that actually worked. Yeah, get him. And that worked pretty well, somewhat time consuming to get it done in all the different places where that happened in the script, but it was totally doable. And I'm looking at this software and thinking, wow, if I got that same request and, oh, all right, let me just, you know, do that analysis, and then I'll just change the sentences. Okay, change that him to him there, or maybe I'll go all the way and say to her and do a quick hit the play button on a batch process and boom, that would be crazy.
You know, that's what's great about that is it's just a word. So the inflection doesn't, you know, have as much as an effect. Assuming that the person didn't say get her and something big, you know, or get him, and you got to come up with that. Yeah. But yeah, that's a really useful way to do that.
Gentlemen, I would like to take a efficient toboggan ride down the slippery slope of the implications of this technology and imagine where it could be in a few years in the future, especially in the light of the voiceover actors strike. Imagine being able to sit down with a voice actor, give them a script of maybe 20 minutes worth of chatter or whatever the training duration is, and then send them on their merry way. Would we have the ability to produce arbitrary dialogue from that sample set and not need their services further?
That's also scary. Oof. Man.
So VoCo, the union, it's a new union. It's a new thing in the union, the robot VoCo.
There's a, you know, I think in music unions, they actually have some very specific guidelines on how you use music or digitally manipulate recordings of orchestras. So if you are going to be using session musicians as sweetener, you're going to have a different contract. If you're going to record a small orchestra, but you really want a big orchestra, I think that the latest version of the contract, which is actually not really in effect because there is no agreement right now between the AFM and the video game industry, well, you can't actually do that. You can't have a 40-piece orchestra basically track themselves twice so that you can make the sound of an 80-piece orchestra for your game. And then things like Voco, I imagine that whatever is going to come up next, they have to acknowledge this right away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's trouble right there, because an actor is going to say, you know, I said those words, but not in that sequence. And so you have to pay me for the change. I wonder what the contract looks like. Like, do we have to include digital media with a contract to say, here's the original thing I said, and anytime they changed it beyond that, whether it's used for another game or whether it's used for an expansion of this game or whether we used to correct some audio, you have to pay me some money. What do we do there?
It's a little bit like an analogy in music might be if you've got a musician who you bring in an overdubber who's going to do little improvisational licks, like maybe you've got one of these woodwind doublers who's going to pull out a shakuhachi and give you a lot of little shakuhachi licks and accents and trills and so forth that you could theoretically take and put in another project, because an isolated shakuhachi lick may be something that's portable. I've worked with a wind player who had a contract that says, you know, you're just using it in this project. If you'd like to use it in another project, that's totally cool. Just we're going to negotiate a reuse fee. So in terms of anticipating what the union will do, I'm sure that they will fall back on familiar role models for whatever futuristic contract that they may one day arrive at with the video game industry.
Yeah, but would they also just totally put the kibosh on it? Because, you know, so in the example with AFM, they're like, no, you cannot do a small orchestra and have it be a large orchestra through multiple tracking. Could the union say, well, if you're going to use our voice actor, well, you are also going to say you cannot use this sort of Project Voco or whatever similar software that comes down the line on his voice at all, because we don't want you misrepresenting who our talent is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be it's going to like get banned rather than used among the contracts. But Westwood Game brings up something really interesting. Do we have to copyright our voice? I mean, our voices are like fingerprints, you know, and we could somehow attach some sort of legal process to our voice. I wonder if that would be, oh, hold on.
That would be exciting.
Oh, what is this?
Is this whiskey delivery?
It's a Scotch delivery.
Oh.
I ran myself out of my second favorite Scotch. If anybody loves Scotch, Clynelish 14 is fantastic.
Oh, okay.
And I can text and receive Scotch from my 10-year-old. It's a beautiful thing. So onward.
That's the perfect transition to any subject.
So anyway, I mean, Westwood brings up a great point about copyrighting our voice.
Well, I mean, we do have. Well, that's not exactly the realm of audio marks, because that's, you know, really for, you know, things like ear cons and whatnot, not for the actual tone. Excuse me, the tone of our voice.
What I think will be interesting is the pressure it will put upon the contractual negotiations, because you have the option of hiring. Let's say that the union says you can't significantly reprocess a vocal performance to get more material. You can correct him versus her, to refer to Vince's example. You can do a little forensics, but you can't get 2 minutes of dialogue out of 1 minute performance if the dialogue is something completely different without paying for it. And that's here in our agreement. And then a non-union voice actor says, I don't have a problem. You want to spin off lots of different versions of what I said? That's fine. Give me a lump sum, and I will give you a subpar, sub-union caliber, but perhaps usable performance. Maybe if it's a role that's computer voice number 4, saying, that wizard is from the moon and it's heavily processed and you don't have a lot of nuance, maybe that'll be good enough. So it'll be very interesting to see, especially when the technology matures in, let's say, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting thing to watch, for sure.
You know what'd be cool is if you could get paid for the number of lines that they're going to need, but using the software, go in and do like an hour and a half worth of just gibberish, and then they construct all the lines.
That might be a best of both worlds, where you can make any new versions of the dialogue recorded as long as the actor gets paid as if those were recorded in the studio. So the advantage there is if you have a few pickup lines you need and it's just logistically not feasible to bring the talent back into the studio and you don't want to pay the studio again, you can just algorithmically spit off a couple of other lines and just make a note of it and toss the actor a few more bucks. That might be a really useful application that doesn't ruffle anybody's feathers.
Yeah. And also, if you're the person who creates the dialogue default that gets used at all game studios in this example, like for instance, the brown fox jumped over the lazy dog or something like that. If you were able to create that script that can be converted into every word successfully, you can make a lot of money. Copyright that script.
Yeah.
Why do we talk about money so much? It's like we need that stuff. It's about the creativity, but this, I think it's really cool that the technology is there. I see it more as a band-aid. Something has gone wrong in the recording process, the traditional recording process. We need to get this extra line. You get permission from the VO artist and you say, can we use this software to get those 2 or 3 lines? We offer you to come in and record again, but since we have the software, we're not going to pay for hotel or travel. So if you're local, it's easy, but if you're distant, can we use this software? I think that would be a decent way to do it. I think it could be used as a band-aid, but I'm not sure I'd want to build a game and depend on it, especially since it's early technology. Do you guys remember that Microsoft thing that would write you sang a melody and it would write the chords behind it? What was that called?
Oh, man.
That turned out to be awesome. If you go on Google, we got to think of the name of it because you could look up things.
It was just like, what, 5 years ago or something?
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And you could search songs. It was pretty funny. So like, if you sang the melody to Roxanne by the Police, I think that was one of the ones on YouTube that's hilarious, the chords that it wrote behind.
Yeah.
If maybe the chatties know what it was called. Anyway,
yeah, Microsoft actually does some really wacky research stuff.
So that didn't go well. But what I've heard about VoCo so far, I was really impressed. They did a switch on Peel, saying that when he won an award, he kissed his dogs and then his wife, and then he said in that order. And in the end, they ended up changing it to he kissed Key 3 times. And it sounded completely convincing. The problem is, I know from those kind of press releases that they prep a lot of stuff. And they could have, to sell the software, had him say that line, and they play the game of switching the words around, but they really just play a sample they have of him saying that. So I don't know how real it is. I want to see it happen.
Yeah. I mean, Adobe is not known for audio. They're much more known for visual manipulation, but
oh my God,
they certainly have the acumen there. But what other company I think might be able to do it, but maybe even before Adobe? Maybe Isotope.
Oh my God, of course.
They might be
Isotope
able
does
to do
amazing things. As a matter of fact, we're going to do another giveaway pretty soon. Aren't we due for a giveaway? It's November, aren't we?
I think we are. I think we're going to give people something to be thankful about, maybe.
Yes, for Thanksgiving. So we will, let's do it next week. You guys want to do it next week? Do the contest next week? I didn't prep any of the graphics for this week, but we can do it next week.
Yeah, let's do it next week.
All right, next week we're going to do another giveaway. Isotope has been so kind to give us software to give away. What have we given away in the last couple of months? We had like a run there of Nectar.
Yeah, we did Nectar.
We did Stutter Edit last month. And we did something else, didn't we?
Iris. We did Iris recently too.
Iris, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll be able to give out Neutron?
Ooh,
we might.
Boy, that'd be
Neutron's been cool. Neutron's been interesting.
I'll have to contact them. Neutron has blown my mind. I got to tell you guys, I'm a hardware fanatic. If I took this camera and put it out in the studio, you would see a giant 40-channel recording console. I can't help myself with hardware. And Neutron, as much as I love RX, as much as I love Ozone, as much as I love what Isotope puts out, Neutron blew my mind, because there's one thing that I like to see when I see an EQ. I like to see like the actual audio play, so I know where to pull down the nodes. They do that. But what I really love about Neutron, and what nobody had done before, was clashing audio. You've got a bass, you've got a kick drum and a bass playing. Where is that clashing? Nobody had created a graphic of that before. And they do that now with masking in Neutron. And oh my God, just for educational purposes, it's useful. But now that I see it, it's like cheating. Before I had to listen, and I had to know this frequency range and say, you know, about right here is where you're going to want to cut the bass right here, or you're going to want to get, you want the click of the kick more than you want the actual beef of the kick, because the bass is covering that frequency or something. But with Neutron, I can actually see them hitting each other, and I can go, oh, let's peel this one off and let that one go on through. Oh, masking in Neutron is unbelievable. So I will see if we can get that. I can't make any promises. It's brand new. We got to be kind to Isotope, and you know, I mean, it's just cool. Like anybody else, they want to make a profit off their stuff. So we don't want to give away too much, but I'll see what I can do.
And I will say, if you do have earlier other Isotope products and you are eligible for the music production bundle at an upgrade price, Neutron is part of that bundle now. So that could be worth your while to investigate that upgrade. Neutron, yeah, like Kyle said, it's really cool.
Unbelievable. But I mean, you can investigate that upgrade, but give us a chance. We might be able to do a giveaway. So let's wait and see November, December what we can do.
Oh,
anyway, so Songsmith is the Microsoft. Thank you, Isotope. Songsmith is the.
Thank you, Dan. Oh my God, now I remember that.
Man, you cannot put it past the chatties. They will find this stuff. So if you search like Songsmith Roxanne, well, frankly, just search Songsmith on Google and spend hours staring at the interwebs, because it's hilarious, the things that people have come up with. Yeah, Songsmith.
Let's see. Let's move on to some more cool stuff, more positive things.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to point out that I did not drink this bottle during the show. It just dawned on me as I said, hey, I drank myself out of this, that it, you know, people think, wow, Kyle. No, I had like half a glass left. That's all.
Oh, man.
I mean, I know we had a rough 10 minutes, but it wasn't that rough.
Yeah.
Clearing that up.
Let's move on.
Okay, do it.
I want to say Dolby Atmos. Dolby Atmos is cool. Some of you might have experienced it in theaters. Some of you might actually have it in your home system. But video game consoles did not have Dolby Atmos support until Microsoft said, hey, guess what? All Xbox One and Xbox One S users, you're going to get Dolby Atmos support courtesy of a software update. So that's actually really cool. Yeah. If you haven't experienced Dolby Atmos, it's great. And actually, even in a home setting, if you've got a decent home setting with the speakers, with the height firing drivers, it's really good. Dolby Atmos in home is a really nice sonic experience, and it's really cool to see the Xbox One support it.
I did a mix for movie theater, and I had to do it in Atmos and D-Box. Do you remember the D-Box stuff?
Whoa, actually, I don't. I've never had to deal with that.
D-Box is like a chair that vibrates for certain frequencies.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it was a really interesting mix because I had to accentuate these frequencies to, well, Atmos. I just had to expand it into some other speakers that were firing from the side. Interesting fact on the Atmos speakers, because I bought a pair. Oh, let me put that back. I have a 5.1 home theater system by Klipsch. But to get Atmos, I had to add 2 more speakers, and they sit on the table and they fire at the ceiling and then bounce down and you hear them.
Yep.
Which is crazy because you have to position them properly, because if they're too close to you, you can hear them firing before you hear it come off the ceiling. So you have to get them far enough away from you. The best situation is just to put them on the ceiling, but the way my house is, I can't do that because I've got these you know, wood beams that go across, and they're not spaced where they need to be. But that's where you want to put them on the ceiling and have them fire down. But this fired from the table up and then back down again. And I thought it was very interesting when I set that up, the delay, and then the positioning is very important. You guys have the Atmos stuff at home?
I don't. I've been excited about it ever since the beginning of this year. Well, I guess not quite, but GDC, because Dolby Atmos sounds good, but people have been wondering about game support, and Wise introduced earlier this year that they would support Dolby Atmos for output. So that's really cool. And I actually first heard Dolby Atmos within a game context during a Blizzard Overwatch presentation, and I thought it was great. So yeah, there are some games that support Dolby Atmos, and maybe I'll actually have it in my own personal living room. Not right now. I still have the standard Dolby 5.1, but hopefully soon.
It adds a couple of channels, but is there anything specific about Atmos you have to look out for? Like with 4K televisions, and I was trying to search, but when you buy a 4K television, if it doesn't have this certain feature that they don't all list, you're not actually getting 4K. Have you guys run into that?
Are you talking about the HDR, the 10-bit rendering and whatnot?
That might be what it is. Like people are selling 4K televisions, but they're not truly 4K. So if you get a 4K signal, it doesn't work. Because there's some sort of like fine detail that some TV manufacturers aren't including, and you have to have that to get true 4K. Is there anything in Atmos that you have to have? Like if you buy a speaker system, is there, because they may just slap an Atmos sticker on there because it's got enough speakers, but is there a technology that you have to make sure is included?
I don't know. I think as long as you have at least that pair of height firing speakers, then you are ready to go for the actual Atmos experience. Otherwise, it's just going to fold down to the flat 5.1 or flat 7.1 mix. But as long as you have some sort of height drivers, then you should be okay.
Gotcha. I'm listening to, I'm reading the chat room. Does Dolby have an Atmos encoder for game software currently? Says Sean LaVale.
I think it's just right now the easiest way is if you're on Wise, you can do that.
Okay. And so Overwatch is using it. Star Wars Battlefront is using it. I haven't played Overwatch.
Oh, really? Huh. It's pretty cool.
It's one of those, what do they call MOBAs?
Not quite. It's actually, well, I mean, I guess it is kind of MOBA-ish, but it actually, a lot of guys that were really big fans of Team Fortress are really into Overwatch.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I was worried about the thing about MOBAs for me, and it's steeped in ignorance, so please help me. But my understanding of MOBA is that they took a game, stripped the story out of it, just threw a battle scene up there and had you fight the whole time.
Oh man, that's true. I mean, MOBA is kind of, it kind of grew out of not just a game, but a mod of a game called Dawn of the Ancients. It was a really popular mod that was made for Warcraft 3. And some guys decided, well, we're just going to keep on playing this mod. It's a fantastic game mode. Many of those guys went on to be founding members of a little company called Riot, and they make League of Legends.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, Dawn of the Ancients, well, that becomes the acronym Dota. So Dota 2 no longer stands for Dawn of the Ancients, but yeah, it definitely points to the lineage there.
Gotcha. And so is it true? Is it just battle? Mike, what do you say?
Well, it's battle combined with a structure that makes it sort of like a competitive athletic event. You've got a time limit, you've got teams. In the case of Dota, it's kind of like a capture the flag collaborative game. And there's the element of picking your avatar among kind of a gallery of possibilities, each of whom has different strengths and weaknesses. So if you're playing socially, you'll tend to specialize in certain characters and get very good at their particular abilities. And there tend to be lots and lots of possibilities, so you can really just immerse yourself in this game. There was a really cool documentary about a big Dota 2 tournament. I forgot the name of it, but it was fascinating to watch. Does anyone remember the name of that? I'm sure one of the chatties can help me out here.
The big invitational tournament, or
No, it was a Dota 2 tournament. I don't remember if it was domestic or in Japan, but there was a documentary following the kind of obsessive people who play Dota for 9 months to train and
Wow.
on the way that these tournaments unfolded. And it was like being at a stadium event. It was really crazy.
Wow.
yeah.
But I don't remember the name of that documentary, but it's short. It's like an hour, and it's just fascinating to watch.
I've not played any MOBAs, so I'm really ignorant about it. But you know what I had a thought as we were talking about this? We should have a Civ 6 GA edition where we all take a civilization, a different civilization, and just see if we can see who wins in the end. What do you guys think?
Oh man, you would kick my ass. I
No.
do not have I don't have the brain for that sort of structured planning and whatnot.
I feel like I went from the opposite ends, right? From MOBA to Civ. It's like the opposite spectrums of video games. But I'm an idiot and I play Civ, so it is not a difficult game to play. I love it. I'll die soon after the revolution or soon after the Renaissance. I promise you. But what do you guys think? We should have some sort of host. We should host some sort of game where we can all get in. Civ wouldn't be it because there's not enough.
I'll bring Battleship.
What one?
I can bring some Battleship, That's pretty exciting. Very strategic.
Stratego?
Hey, actually, Stratego would be cool.
I was
I don't mean board game.
Axis and Allies? Are we going to do some Axis and Allies? Or?
Oh my God, you got me. Now,
okay. Oh, wait a minute. I shouldn't have said it. I realize who I'm talking to now. I'm going to actually go. I'm going to step back a few minutes because Dan actually mentioned an important point about Atmos. So I was harping on about the height being an important distinction, but it's actually more than that. The fact that the audio receiver is going to be handling the mixing between the channels rather than you as the creator of the assets figuring out the channel mix in order to figure out the panning. So you can have streams of audio that are totally independent of the channel mix. The Atmos receiver will actually do that decoding between whatever channel setup you have.
Oh, God.
That's a big part of the Atmos setup even for home. Yes.
Nice. All right. I did not know that. That's very cool. I'm trying to find the chat window. There it is. So, okay. So future thoughts are we watch Beep as a group, either online or have another barbecue, or we set up some sort of game where we can all, log in together. You know what? Send info@gameaudiohour.com your PS4 or Xbox name, and we'll friend you up. And that way we'll all have each other's kind of friends list. What do you guys think?
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to buy a PS4 now that an Xbox. I've had a PS4. So I made that choice, Xbox or PS4, Xbone, Xbox One. And I went with PS4, and I've been there the whole time. And now that they did the Atmos, I'm like, oop, time to go buy an Xbox. What is my first game on the Xbox? What do I get that I have to play?
Wow. Gosh, I mean, it depends, are you a racing guy? Forza is really good. I've been waiting for Elite on PS4. Unfortunately, you have to be a PC guy or an Xbox guy for that. So, I've been tempted to get an Xbox just for Elite Dangerous. Oh, great. Yeah, that's right. Alex has been bugging me about that because he's big on Elite.
You could defeat the entire purpose of getting a new console and get the remastered edition of Skyrim and try that with Atmos.
But I hear the music in the remastered edition of Skyrim is not so good.
Yeah, that's right. I heard about that too. What's up with that? Yeah, apparently the X audio encoder had the wrong settings. So the default settings were just extremely low bitrate compared to what you got on PC or on PS4.
Does that mean that if you crank up the audio quality setting on the new edition of it, you're not going to get something as good as the Xbox 360 version?
That is correct.
Well, I hope they fix that because
they're planning on fixing it. It's huge. That was actually a really big deal. What was that? Just last week or
Last week,
2 weeks ago? Yeah. Yeah, people were all talking about it. And yeah, if you are on Sony or if you do get the PC version, you're not going to have an issue. It's strictly with the Xbox One version.
I would like to say that we have the chat room exploding into board games and stuff. And Adriano just made the greatest comment, I think. He says we should have a game audio hour D&D session where we all play bards.
that would be a slaughter. A very fast slaughter.
That actually sounds cool. I would totally do that.
Doesn't that sound hilarious? It would be like, we should do it like a competition, like the boss monster is holding like the voice session and we all have to compete who wins.
And maybe we could have combat resolved by Artiphone.
Oh my God. Or kazoo, whichever. Never mind. Artiphon, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to be funny here. Don't take me the wrong way. Please send me another one. Speaking of which, I'm trying to find the proper words. I sometimes speak negatively, but I mean positive things from it. Do you have your MREF?
Yeah, I do have an MREF. I actually have a second MREF, in fact.
This is the point I'm trying to make. I can't think of Jim's last name right now, who is the head of MREF. He has done an amazing thing with MREF. If anybody gets a chance to buy the MREF, please do, because he has been amazingly polite and positive about getting just what you want out of these MREF speakers. Like, there's been some things that didn't work quite right, like the glue let free on the casing a little bit. Next thing I know, I've got another MREF. Or the silver volume knob was giving a little bit of a touch sound. Next thing I know, I've got a new MREF. It's unbelievable what he has been doing to hone in exactly a great product that everybody wants. And I just wanted to say thank you to him publicly and also promote the MREF because it's a fantastic little speaker. I really do love it. And having a pair of them that I can use like Auratones, but a modern day Auratone, is just great. And by itself, even minus the software, the speaker sounds pretty good. Would you say the same, Vince?
I would. You got it all right there. He's been really good in responding to me. The reason I got this second MREF is actually because just a little bit of an issue on my first one, and gave me a new power supply with this one, so that's great. We got the power supply issue fixed. I'm super happy with it, and I'm really looking forward to trying it with all these different devices. You know, it's got. I have been using it mostly with the software, so I know what it sounds like with a Nintendo 3DS. I'm actually looking forward to next year because that means he's going to perhaps model a Nintendo Switch, maybe.
Oh. Nice.
I wonder how that is going to sound.
He's on to something. Absolutely. I believe in it. Look what I got with the last MREF.
Oh, yeah.
I got a handwritten note from him in the last MREF. Unbelievable. I mean, the attention to detail and what he cares about. It's just beautiful. And don't kill me for showing this, Jim, but I was running into touch sensitivity with my volume. So he sent me one with a different volume button. I mean, he's trying to figure out what the perfect combination is. Just a wonderful job. Great job, MREF. All right.
Man. So we have 5 minutes left. What else do we want to mention before we sign off here?
So the title of the show was what? It was Atmos Switch. Well, Switch.
Switch, yes, that's right, Switch. One thing that I've been wondering about is how we're going to approach the Switch and sound design for that, because Nintendo has been really promoting the fact that yes, you can go from the big screen to the small screen to the big screen and back, and also having multiple systems playing in close proximity to each other, which is kind of a scary thing, actually. Making something that will sound good on the big screen as well as on the small screen, and especially those small speakers. Can we have that complex mix that works with really good big drivers for your home theater as well as for whatever's on the Switch. Who knows?
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Kind of outside of my realm of expertise.
Well, I guess I'm actually wondering about this with usually. Okay, well, actually, I have worked on some games that use Fmod, and I know that with Fmod in the iPhone, you can know whether or not the user is plugging in headphones or not. So there are some games out there that take advantage of that. If you are plugging in headphones, you can do certain things to the sound. If you are using just the iPhone's built-in speaker, then you could do other things to the sound instead, or have certain sounds actually play or not. Now, most of the time, there's not so much a really huge difference there because it's kind of expected. Yeah, the iPhone headphone experience is going to be the premium experience, and without the headphones, not so much. But with this sort of weird crossover device that the Nintendo Switch is, where it's supposed to be a really good portable as well as a really good home console system, I guess more people are going to have to be paying attention to two different mixes, where some people, the portable mix is actually going to be their primary method of consuming the audio. And for other people, it's never going to leave their living room.
I wonder if that judgment will be done on a game-by-game basis, depending on whether the game lends itself to the console versus portable form factor. Like, you'll just make an educated guess as to how people are likely to play the game, and then pick one of those mixes as your home base, essentially.
Mm-hmm. I'm also wondering, I really want to know a little bit more about the industrial design of the Switch, because when it comes to stereo, usually I think about that as off the sides of the display. But with this, your hands are going to be right there on the sides, manipulating those sticks and buttons. I wonder how it's really going to sound, how good that stereo separation will be. And it's actually not as big a display as some other devices out there. It's actually a less than 7-inch tablet. So there are actually some guys with phones that are going to be bigger than this thing.
Oh boy.
Getting good stereo separation out of that would be tough. I mean, you really can't. Well, I've heard some.
You got to put the speakers where, when you're holding it, your hands are naturally extending the sound. That's my.
I remember. Oh man, maybe it's going to be like some variation of the claw. Do you guys know the claw? You just get the hands up here in order so you could get those buttons that are on the top of the console. Maybe it's going to be a variation on that. Hold your controllers like this so that you can get optimal sound while playing.
I think it's all going to be about headphones. Again, hitting a mobile device, not going to have a lot of bass. The mix still has to be for the headphone listener, because why try to make it better for speakers when the speakers are that close together or that weak? That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, I wonder how the developers and publishers can deal with this, because I can also imagine people thinking, oh, the Nintendo Switch, it's basically the successor to the Nintendo 3DS, right? So I'm going to make this type of game, which is not exactly the most demanding when it comes to what it needs audio-wise. And really you're getting relatively simple mixes of stuff, whether you're on the go or on your living room setup.
Remember as well that we may be at the dawn of the era of wireless headphones. So it might be that gamers will always be wearing headphones regardless of which of the two modes they're in. So it might be not as big of a deal as we are contemplating.
Oh, that scares me, because we got wireless headphones already with Apple, right? And then we have our Bluetooth wireless headphones. And knowing Nintendo, you guys remember the Nintendo headphone jack that they used for the Game Boy Advance? They didn't use a 3.5 millimeter jack. It actually plugged into the charging port. on the Game Boy Advance. Oh man, yeah, I can imagine on the wireless space, everyone's going to have their own fun proprietary wireless headphones, and that's. I don't know if it scares me as a developer. It just actually scares me as a player. Oh, am I going to replace? Am I going to misplace my Apple earbuds, or am I going to misplace my Nintendo earbuds?
Well, I think it's good in the sense that we may be able to rely, and this is addressing exactly the topic you're bringing up earlier, but we may be able to rely on headphone mixes and perhaps better quality headphone mixes as, if not the norm, then a more likely scenario, especially when we have funny situations like the Switch where switching from back and forth would be made smoother if we had a consistent, audio experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the Switch.
Audio, always getting the shaft.
Sometimes it can be okay. Actually, any of you guys play any games on your... Actually, do either of you have a Wii U that you play?
I just traded it in for a Switch. I wonder, is there a trade-in for that? Like,
I'm sure there must be, but I can't imagine that it would be a lot since Wii U is effectively end of life now.
Oh, sadly.
It's kind of cool actually that with the Wii U, it does allow you to fully play the games on that Wii U tablet device. But the speaker on that thing really isn't very good. No. It's a good thing that there is the headphone jack on there. Oh man.
You know what's sad though is it's a portable gaming device, and I want people to be safe, and having to wear headphones to hear the full audio realization of the game is kind of dangerous in some ways, don't you think? Like if you're on a subway or if you're crossing a street and you have your headphones in, it seems kind of dangerous. But I think most people just turn off the audio, which is why I was saying audio gets the shaft. I know the first time I saw somebody play one of my games on the Nintendo DS that I'd done audio for, the first thing I did was turn down the volume.
Oh man.
Sorry, it cracks me up. The first thing they did was turn down the volume, and the whole reason I was watching them play the game is to see what they thought of the audio. It just went zoop.
Well, now you know.
I mean, that's probably wise when it comes to my music, but it still hurt a little bit. So, if you don't give an opportunity for the audio to be heard safely, if you will, in this example, people are going to turn it off.
I imagine that there must be some, just based on the trailer that Nintendo actually put out there a few weeks ago, because it's not just about the device being able to serve you as the single player on a portable game system experience, but actually being able to service a group of people. I imagine that there must be some power to those speakers. You can't stand 7 or 8 feet away from a little tablet like that, or maybe you can. Maybe that is what Nintendo is intimating, that the speakers are actually pretty decent for a group surrounding one of them.
Well, that would be nice.
That would be nice.
So I want to say that tomorrow is vote day.
Yes, that is definitely worth saying.
Go get your vote on.
Yep.
I'm also looking for the chat window so I can put in this link. Have you seen the link of the adapter upon the adapter upon the adapter? It's just
oh God!
plugged into an iPad. It's pretty hilarious.
Don't even see that link. Relived it.
I don't want to be political on this show. We are dangerously close to, sometimes our opinions do not match what the game industry would prefer, but that's what I love about our show is we're honest about the way we feel about things, whether it's pay or whether it's work conditions and stuff like that. We're honest, and that's what I love. But voting can be a little bit weird for people, so we just want to say that if you're if it means something to you, go out, get your vote. I vote, I don't know about you guys, but I do it through a mail-in ballot, but I screwed it up yesterday. I literally wrote X's on a couple of things that I messed up, and my wife goes, I don't think they'll count your ballot.
I don't think they'll count that either, yeah.
What was funny is I said, of course, I've never done this before. I've been mailing in my ballot for years, and I've never messed up. But some of the things on our ballot have, like a couple of different measures are like, if both are yes, this happens. If both are no, that happens. If this one's yes and that one's no, this other thing happens. It's like 4 choices among 2 different items. And I messed up. I did them in the reverse of what I wanted. So I scratched them out. And my wife said, I don't think they'll accept. I think your whole ballot is lost if you turn it in with those 2 X's, which is really kind of shitty. So I said, no, that's not possible. And she showed me this page, and I swear to you, the X's, they had this page that said, do not make these marks on your ballot. And one of the marks was the X, and the X was so realistic to the X that I made that I thought they snapped a picture really quickly and printed it and sent it to me. It matched so perfectly. It was like, not only don't make this X, but don't make the exact X that you did. It was hilarious. So so tomorrow I get to stand in a line and correct my ballot. And apparently you have to turn in your ballot you messed up to get a new ballot to go vote. And I'm going to take my daughter and show her what it's like to stand in line and, you know, and vote. I'm going to go early, so hopefully there's not much of a line. But if it is something you're interested in, please express your vote. Tomorrow's a very important day for all of us in this country. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about that. But I brought in the new guitar.
Right,
you want to see it?
Oh, yes.
Are you ready?
Ooh,
Oh.
Dobro?
It is. It is but it's a Gretsch
A Gretsch.
Oh, yeah.
resonator. Isn't that awesome?
I feel like it's the Prohibition era all over again. It'd be ironic since you just finished a bottle of whiskey on the show.
Yeah,
that's
ironic.
great.
So my wife is a very beautiful singer, and she's starting a jazz group, and she's like, I need a guitarist, and I study jazz guitar, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. But then I saw this guitar, and I said, I have to buy it. So I bought it, and she's like, okay, so for buying the guitar, you're now the guitarist in this jazz group. So but what's great about it is it sounds like an old Victrola. I just love that old 20s. I don't know if anybody knows this, but the reason resonator guitars and Stroh violins were created is because back in the day when you would record, the whole band would be in front of a horn, and the horn would carry that sound to a wire in the earliest days, a wax cylinder in later days, and one of the many instruments that got drowned out by the horns and the piano player was the guitar. And so somebody created this resonator. It's kind of a built-in amplifier back in the 20s, but today it just has this very old sound to it, and I think it's beautiful. The old jazz from that age just sounds gorgeous to my ear, and so I had to get one of these. It's not in my collection. I don't have one. So there it is, resonator guitar.
Beautiful.
That's nice. I just realized I don't have my new instrument here.
What'd you get?
I actually got a new Iwi.
Is that number 3?
No. Oh, if only it was number 3. This is number 6.
Wow.
But I didn't bring it because it's actually at home. It's actually a Roland. Roland has never made an Iwi before, and they have an Iwi now, and it looks really weird. It actually looks totally 80s. Some people have said it looks sort of like a shark. Some people have said it looks kind of like a spaceship from some 80s sci-fi television show.
Oh, I can't wait to see it, man.
I will have to remember to bring it in to work next week so that you guys can see it.
That'd be awesome, man.
It's so crazy. It sounds actually really different from the Akai Iwi, and it also plays a little differently because it actually has a sort of composite reed that's on the mouthpiece compared to the little rubber nipple that I deal with the Akai. So it's a little different. It plays different. It sounds different.
That's great.
Well, I say next week on the show, we do a little instrument show and tell, and Vince can show off his Iwi. Kyle can show us his Artiphon, if he's never demonstrated that before. And I can show you the kalimba that I bought in Hawaii, which is so out of tune that it is awesome. It is completely awesome.
All right.
That's the best. Oh, man. Well, hey, guys.
Great. Show and tell next week.
Show and tell next week. Also a giveaway. And thanks, Isotope, again, for your support. Hey guys, great seeing you. I'm
Yeah.
glad we got the band back together. We've all missed shows back and forth. I missed last week. I think Mike missed. He didn't miss. He was in Hawaii doing amazing things. But it's great to see everybody back together. So I'll see you next week.
Cool. Next week.
Thanks, chatties. And like us and subscribe and do all those other things that I can't remember. Goodbye.